that morning they woke 60 men up out of their sleep to go on the anti-sabotage guard, which we didn't know we was going to be on it that morning. So they woke 60 of us up, and we were down. Some of them had already ate breakfast when the attack started, and some of them still in the dining room eating. And I was through eating. Me and two other men that I knew real well. One of them was a charge of quarters that morning. We stand there talking, and all at once we heard a plane start, sound like he's in a power dive, making a loud noise. And one of the gentlemen said to the other, says, I thought the Army and Navy war games were over with. He said, I did too. And about that time, the plane came through the cloud, and we saw the red disc on the wings. One of the men said to the other, said, that's the Japanese Air Force. And he just about got that place shook real bad. The bomb dropped on Wheeler Field, and all the red dust and everything flew up. We seen that, seen the plane as it went down in the dive to drop it. So the charge of quarters was Sergeant Red Miller. He told me and the other guy to go up and get the man out of bed. There's a bunch of men still up in the barracks in the bed asleep. And I went running up our first floor, and I went into the train. Corporal Martin was there shaving. And I told him, I said, the Japanese are bombing Wheeler Field. He says, sure enough, Freddie, and he just kept on shaving. So I ran on up to the top floor, and I hollered out the same thing, that the Japanese are bombing Wheeler Field. And one guy in the bed, he says, if you don't get out of here, King, I'm going to kill you with my GI shoes. And
nobody believed you.
Yeah. About that time, a plane come flying in with the guns a-blazing, and smoke a-flying, and bullets a-hitting the wall. And it looked like he was going to come in where we was at through that big screen, but he didn't. And the guy, he jumped up that I was talking to, he jumped up, got his rifle and took off with nothing but white shorts on. Went downstairs and started shooting. So it lasted a good while, and I don't know how many planes. There was a bunch of them came over there, right where we was at shooting. But most of the bullets hit in the roof of the building and up in front of the barracks. And it went on over in the football field back behind the barracks. But it went on for a good while, and after a while it kind of ceased down, and they quit coming over. And they come to the day room and told us that we don't have no Air Force left, we don't have no Navy left. And says if the Japanese come in for an invasion, all I can tell you is to get LSB you can get. And then we went out, and later on that afternoon, they decided to send us a 2nd Battalion, which was E Company part of it. They decided to send us down to Wheeler Field and set up guard positions all around the side of the airfield. So we had to go down there, and we dug standing foxholes to guard in, and we was there for about a month around Wheeler Field. And for the first 3 or 4 days, the planes were so excited with the pilots when they came over, they'd do the wings up and down like that to let us know it was friendly planes. So we stayed about a month there. And they wouldn't let you do anything about leaving the place to go anywhere. We had to be right there all the time. And I think they probably sent maybe one change of clothes there the whole time we was there. We ate Christmas dinner there at Wheeler Field on guard duty. So after we left from there, they moved us up to emergency landing field, and we stayed there a few weeks. And then we went from there over to a dummy airfield where they had dummy planes. It looked real. It looked just like a real plane, but it's a dummy. And we stayed there a while. Then we went from there to the mountain. We just living in pup tents laying on the ground with just one OD blanket underneath us, two guys to a little pup tent. We laid on one blanket, slept, and covered with the other, two guys to each pup tent. And we had alert every morning at 5:45. We had to fall out, full equipment ready to go, and line up in each squad and platoon, ready to move, and stand there so long. And then we would fall out, go and eat breakfast. After we ate breakfast, we'd get on a GI truck, standing room only, and ride back out of the mountains down to the beach road and start around the beach where we started building gun positions, cutting logs, making up cement and wheelbars, making boxes, making some out of logs, cutting those logs and dragging them up a mountain, up the side of the hill to get them there to make gun positions.
Now, about what time of the year was that? Was that still in December, or was that into 1942?
That was in the months after the 7th. And,
so that's the first part of 42 then, probably.
Sometime, yeah, it was sometime up to August. In August is the first time any of us got a pass to go to town. It was in August 42. And up to that time, mostly we was pulling guard duty and building those gun positions. When we got the gun positions completed and all, then we had to man them, guard them, stay on that guard duty night and day for so long. At night you had to look for lights and report it on the coordinates reading out to the Navy, and they'd investigate anything that you might thought you seen out there. They'd go and look and see if they could find anything.
Now, immediately after the attack, and you took up the positions at Wheeler, that was round the clock then, is what you're saying, right? I mean, okay, you lived there in those positions.
We lived right there and slept on the ground in pup tents, and it rained a good bit right after the war started. It rained just about all night that night. A lot of shooting carrying on, going on that night too. But getting back to the gun positions, after we built the gun positions, we had to cut vegetation back on all the low-lying land around the beach area we covered, which is probably 20 miles or more, maybe 30 miles. And it actually might have been further than that. But we had to cut all the vegetation back from the water's edge 500 foot back where the land was kind of flat. So the men could have a good foreign position if an invasion came. They wouldn't have anything to hide behind, and you'd have a good foreign position and clear where they couldn't hide behind anything. Of course, we didn't do that on the side of the mountains where it was so steep. They didn't figure it to come over them high mountains is steep. You couldn't go up. You'd had to have ropes to climb up, some way to get them, and all. So they didn't figure if they came in, they could scale those mountains. So they didn't worry too much about that. But after we cut the vegetation back and all, we just done guard duty, complete guard duty there for a long time. And practically to the time of there in 1943, we left there in I believe it was June '43. They lifted the blackout the night we left from there. We sailed away from Honolulu Harbor on the USS Lure Line, which at that time was about the biggest passenger ship the United States had in the Far East.
Is that right? Well, now the buildings in that photograph, it shows the 19th quadrangle, and
yeah.
Is that the buildings that you were in at the time?
Yeah, we were in E Company. The first, after you leave the theater and go out towards the quadrangle, we were there in that first building there in E Company, right on the end there. There's a little, if you notice in that picture, there's a little bush there right at the side of the building. And when we went over there for the 50th anniversary, that bush is about, I guess, that big around. It's probably 20 inches through.
That same bush is still there?
That same bush is still there, only it's a tree now. I don't know what kind of tree it is, but it has grown a lot. Of course, in 50 years, most anything will. That's a long time.
Yeah.
But we sailed away from the harbor there, 43, and went on down into Australia. Stayed there about, well, we stayed there, I believe, August to Christmas. Then we went to Good Enough Island, which was a staging area and supply place, and took a bunch of training there. And we left from there for the invasion in New Guinea, Alandia. Went in there. So they started preparing for the invasion of Leyte Island and the Philippines, which nobody knew where they would go or where we would be going to. But on the night we were supposed to, next to the morning, we were supposed to get up and board ship to leave. We had our ammunition drawers and hand grenades and Tommy guns, everything ready to leave. The next morning, that night, they came up to my tent where I was at, my squad, and told me that I was assigned to rotation to come back to States. And that was the night before the boys loaded up on a boat to come back home. I felt kind of bad about it. I felt kind of like I was leaving them, abandoning them, but I talked to them, and I'd be crazy not to come back if I had a chance to come back. So I came back. We landed in Frisco, San Francisco on the first day of December '44, and went immediately over the fort there where we took showers, the first shower we'd had in about 21 days, except for saltwater showers. It was being used to that hot weather all the time. It was pretty cold. We stayed there about 3 days, and then we came to Fort Bragg, and they sent us home for, I believe it's 21 days, something like that. Then we reported out to Asheville for the rest area there at Biltmore Hotel, and stayed there 12 days. And they assigned each one to a unit. I was assigned to Camp Walters, Texas, the 55th Infantry Training Center. And I stayed there from January to July. I was discharged on the 7th of July 1945. And that was, the war ended the 18th of August. So I liked that much to stay in the time the war was on.
Well, you know, you just uncovered something that I never realized until you said that. That's something you and I have in common. Because I went through Fort Walters, Texas, also. The primary helicopter school was Fort Walters. Yeah. It was Fort Walters when I was there, and it was Camp Walters back in the Second World War. Yeah. Down west of Fort Worth.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
The boys, it was turn to duty. The recruits was finished their 17 weeks training, basic training, left from there, and the drill sergeant got a letter from one of the boys. It said everyone in his unit was killed in the Battle of the Bulge. It left the week that I was assigned to that camp. And they hadn't had but 17 weeks training when they threw them in the line at the Battle of the Bulge, and they all of them got killed. According to what he wrote back to this sergeant, all of them got killed there in the Battle of the Bulge. Young boys, 18, 19 years old. And it was a shame, and you know, you thought a lot about it, but there's nothing you could do. That's just the way it was.
All you could do would be the best job that you could to train them, get them ready.
Yeah. I got one letter from a boy in California. He was in my platoon at Camp Walters, and he was on his way to the Far East. He didn't know, probably Philippines, somewhere, I don't know. I never did know whatever happened to him, but they were good boys, good men, and they were anxious to learn everything they could learn and get as good as they could get before they left to go over. And I'm sure wherever they went, they done a good job. They didn't have as good a chance as the guys that had been in there 2 or 3 years, but they tried to cram a lot of stuff in their heads and everything in 17 weeks, handling weapons and everything. It's not very long, but I think they done pretty good.
Yeah. Now, what did you say the timing again when you were at Walters? What?
I was signed out there in January '45, and I left from there in July.
Okay. You left just as a
45.
Okay.
So Fort Bragg.
You experienced a little bit of how hot it got at Fort Walters in the middle of the summer. That place was hot,
I
wasn't it?
experienced how cold it can get there too.
Yeah, it is.
In January you could wear anything you wanted to wear and you'd still be cold. That wind a blowing.
Yep.
And sand a blowing in your eyes. And then barracks, the sand would come over and get in them barracks. And it's a problem cleaning, keeping sand out and everything.
Now the barracks over in Hawaii, those were concrete block buildings, were they?
It's concrete buildings.
Yeah.
They good, real good, steady buildings. At the time we were in those buildings, we slept on cots, iron cots, and some of them became double-deckers. I understand after the war, the guys that's in there now, and they've changed all of that. There's so many guys to each room and all that kind of stuff. And NCOs, the officers, can't go busting in on them like we didn't have no privacy, nothing else. They could do anything they wanted to. You was in the Army. You had to do what Articles of War read, and they held you right to it. But I understand the difference what we had and what we put up with. But it's just a different world now than what it was back then.
Oh yeah. Well, those buildings, were they part of Schofield Barracks?
Yeah,
that was Schofield Barracks. Yeah.
See, there was 19th Infantry Quadrangle, those buildings that we were in, and then right the 1st Infantry buildings on the same type quadrangle and buildings just like we had. And then below the 21st, they had the 27th Infantry Regiment and the 35th Infantry Regiment, which belonged to the 25th Division. when they left from there, they left in 42, I believe it was 42, or early 43, they left and went to Guadalcanal. And there was 15 guys out of V Company of my outfit volunteered and went with them. And H Company, the 35th Infantry Regiment, got dysentery when they loaded them on a boat, and they pulled them and put them in the 19th Infantry H Company and replaced them with H Company from the 19th Infantry. And I've been told by some of our get-togethers we have that all of them boys that were killed over in Guadalcanal, New Georgia Island, around that area there, Bougainville. A good friend of mine from East Flat Rock was killed there in Guadalcanal, Sergeant Caps. He was from East Flat Rock, North Carolina, near Hendersonville.
What was his first name?
I can't think of his first name, but his last name was Caps. It was just, them guys volunteered, didn't really know what they was doing.
Yeah.
You know, they wanted to get away from the rock there. They called Wahoo the Rock. They wanted to get away from there, and they wound up in Guadalcanal. I take the rock anytime.
When did the guys begin to realize that you weren't joking, that was real? I mean, how did they begin to realize that?
Well, when I got to the top floor and I hollered to the guy what was going on, he told me he's going to kill me with his shoe if I didn't get out of there. And then this plane looked like he's coming in the building where we was at, and machine guns was really blazing away and smoke flying far, and tracer bullets were whizzing. I think most of them they started getting out of there. It was heavy traffic from there down to the bottom floor. They were really
so.
getting down.
Well, now were all of you?
There's no telling how many rounds of ammunition was shot that morning.
Yeah.
And just thousands of rounds, I know, but nobody knows who hit a plane. It was not a plane it fell anywhere close there, but they some went around and fell in pineapple fields around, not too far from there. But I believe, according to some of the readings in the 24th Infantry Division, as a whole was credited by shooting down 5 enemy planes that morning with just machine gun and rifle fire. So we had a little to do with, you know, probably bringing some of that.
Sure. Now y'all had your weapons, I mean, in the barracks.
On each floor we had the weapons and rifle racks on each floor. But the reason 60 men had already drawn their rifles out and had ammunition drawn off and was eating breakfast, and some of them had finished eating.
Mm-hmm.
And we had our rifles down there and ammunition and everything.
So y'all were ready to go ahead and return fire immediately?
Yeah,
then.
we could start shooting anytime.
Yeah. And that was what?
M1, yeah, we got M1, and then we got a new helmet, I believe. We got the new style helmet, I believe, while we was there at Wheeler Field on guard duty. It seemed like we did. We ate Christmas Day dinner there at Wheeler Field.
Yeah.
After the war started.
What other weapons did you have?
Well, we had the BAR, Browning automatic rifle, air-cooled rifle, like 500 rounds per minute. And they was at least one guy shooting that BAR just as fast as he could at them planes that come over. There's one, Sergeant Rachy, he grabbed a 30 caliber air-cooled machine gun, and he was just holding it like this to shoot. One guy ran up, held the belt and feeding it in there. And he shot at him like that till he got so hot he had to lay it down, he couldn't handle it as they come over. There was a lot of bullets going up towards those planes, but they were real low. One of them came over, it looked like He had beard on his face, and you could see his blooming teeth. He's smiling and looked like he's laughing at it. I imagine they were, because they had their day then. I can't feel bad about the bum falling on them. They started it. They didn't deserve what they got, the way I look at it.
I sure agree with that. Now, New Guinea, how long were you there?
Well, from sometime about April, I believe, sometime about the last of April or first of May, somewhere along in there, to they loaded up on the boats around 1st of November, I believe. Left from there around the 1st of November. Leyte Island on the invasion.
Right.
I escaped that by just one night.
Got some company. Okay, we'll cut this thing off now. Thanks, Fred.
Okay, well. How y'all doing? Well, this right here is
Okay.
and this was the barracks for the 19th Infantry.
And that's Schofield Barracks?
Yeah,
or part of it.
Schofield Barracks. And this is, and right here was where E Company was at.
Okay.
Right here is that little bitty shrubbery that you see there. And when we was over on the 50th anniversary, it was probably 20 inches thick.
Yeah.
The tree was. And besides this 19th Infantry quadrangle, the 21st down below us is the same size, and the 27th Infantry Regiment and the 35th, they got the same size. So Schofield Barracks is a pretty big area.
I see.
And then we got engineers on back down here below that, and artillery units are up on the other side of that, plus a hospital and everything. So it's a pretty big place.
Well, now, where was Wheeler Field from there?
Wheeler Field was right down here.
Down below the...
Yeah, right. I don't know what that'd be. That'd probably be southwest. Anyway, it was right straight down that way. 19th Century Barracks back that way to Wheeler Field. But Wheeler Field's a pretty good sized place too. And
well, you remember that that thing they had on the aircraft carrier there, the Yorktown?
Yeah.
That Pearl Harbor. You remember that? It had all the airfield and all that stuff in it. It had the barracks and all.
You mean it's Hickam Field or?
Yeah, I think it was Hickam.
Yeah. I've only been to Hickam Field one time.
Is that right? Yeah. How far away was that from Wheeler?
Now Pearl Harbor is about 19 miles from Schofield, I think. Yeah. See, there's a group of planes that come in to take care of Wheeler Field while they was taking care of Pearl Harbor. They had it all set up where they given all the insulation to those bums and all, you know.
Oh yeah.
Well, about 300 and some planes. There's a lot of planes for a little island that's just 109 miles around. All them.
In each other's way, this many of them.
Yeah, they had a field day.
Yeah. Oh yeah. About where you were when the three of you were together, tell them about that first Zero came in.
We're right here, right in front of E Company Barracks, right in front, right there. When the planes come over, they drop the bomb to Wheeler Field, they come around, and they come in like that towards where we's at. Come across like that, firing right into us. And the bullets was hitting in the concrete wall above our head, and then the roof here, and coming on over here in the ball field, baseball.
Y'all just real fortunate right then that they didn't shoot you down right there.
If they could have elevated the nose of that plane couple of feet like that, we'd have been gone. So
Yeah.
we were just standing there shooting. That's all. Didn't have nothing to hide behind. Nothing to get behind or anything else.
But then you ran on into the barracks to get everybody up, and from that point you were shooting from the barracks, right? Out of the windows?
No, they all ran down and shooting.
Is that right? They all ran out, huh?
All of them shooting outside. There was 2 or 3 guys that got the notion they could go up through a hole, you know, and get up on top and shoot. But when they realized that they would be setting ducks for that airplane, they got up on.
Oh,
With
yeah.
all them bullets are hitting the roof and all, they'd be better off down where we were, down on the ground.
Oh, yeah.
Well, that's they got off of there. You know, heard that. They tried it, but it didn't last.
Well, this thing's showing me my battery is just about to go dead, so I'm going to go ahead and cut this thing off now.
Okay.
Thanks again.